What's going on, people? I'm finally back. And first things first, before we get into anything else, you guys have to bear with me a little bit. I'm a little under the weather. The weather has started to change here in Florida, finally, right? And yeah, it is a little chilly out there in the morning.
Yeah, it's been chilly.
I haven't uploaded a video in a very long time, and I know I kind of left my subscribers hanging again. I don't mean to. Okay, and there's actually been a few things happening in my life that are the reason for why everything has slowed up. First of all, I'm back in school.
Okay.
Been working more, they've been dropping more shifts, and also they have been raising the rates at my job, so
say the whole word like this.
yeah, I'm making more money. I want to make more money, and I want to, go to work more. I'm actually going to work tonight. So it's not like I just left the channel. You know what I mean? There were those days when I was like, man, I should record today. And then I set everything up, sat down, and just didn't feel right, And the thing is, I don't like not giving you guys content, but I also don't like giving you bullshit content. Thank you guys for waiting. If you're a subscriber of mine and you've been waiting for me to drop, I'm here. I'm sorry, okay? All right, so for the people who don't know, a few videos ago, I released my top 80 favorite films of all time. And in that video, I went down a list that I created of all my favorite movies ranked out. And these were movies that I haven't seen in a long time. These were films that I didn't really watch over the last 4 or 5 years. So the whole point of it was so I would rewatch these movies and come back to you guys and review those films, and also reorder my list, re-rank the list, and see where those films fit in the list, if they fit in the list at all. We already got Insidious out of the way. We already got Girls Trip out of the way. So next up is Incredibles 2. Finally. Incredibles 2 is a little weird for me because when I was growing up, I didn't love The Incredibles like everybody else did. Like, don't get me wrong, I still messed with it, and obviously it's still on my favorite films of all time list. We'll be getting to it soon. So obviously I loved the movie, but I never was over the moon about it the way a lot of my peers were, you know what I mean? So Incredibles was never this, top tier, best of the best Pixar movie that everyone else thought it was. It just wasn't that for me. So when the sequel was coming out, I was gassed to see it, of course, but I didn't feel like I walked into the movie like, oh, this better be as good as the original. I never walk into sequels like that. I always walk into a sequel just wanting it to be a good movie, like any other movie, One of the most fun things about this little rewatch I've been doing of these movies is that I'm realizing how much I love these movies. You know what I mean?
Word, you know what I mean? Word, you know what I mean? Word, you know what I mean?
I haven't, like I said in the video,
I fucked bro, damn.
like I said, these are movies that I haven't watched in a very, very long time. So rewatching them now as a 20-something that's really starting to get more used to adult life, I have a different perspective on things these days than I used to. I feel like I look at things a lot differently. And part of the fun of this is actually catching everything that I probably didn't catch when I first watched the movie, when I second watched the movie, third, fourth, fifth. Having that break in between to just experience life and then come back to it. Honestly, this is one of my favorite things about film. I don't know if what I'm saying makes any sense to you guys, but with all three of the movies that have been on this list so far, with Insidious, Girls Trip, and now with Incredibles 2, I've watched every single movie at least twice preparing for these reviews, at least twice. And it's not because I feel like I need to, dive into these deep details. Like, if you guys seen my reviews, I don't go so super deep and super analytical into every movie. Like, it just kind of depends on the movie. So it wasn't for analytical purposes. It was more just because I had so much fun watching the movies, and I just adore watching them so much that I would literally, in the middle of writing the review, would just go, you know what, I feel like watching it again, and just turn it on again.
Get on with it.
But yeah, Incredibles 2 basically picks up exactly where the first Incredibles left off, with the fight with the Underminer. We get this really great, awesome action sequence with the family fighting the Underminer. And it just reminded me just that fast how much I love these characters. I mean, seeing Bob and Helen interact, seeing Dash and Violet interact, arguing over who's gonna watch the baby. I love when a sequel picks up immediately after the first film. There are movies that need time skips. Don't get me wrong. There are sequels that that definitely benefit from jumping forward in time a little bit, but you know, something just gets me when you can watch a second or third film and pick up immediately after the last one. It just makes it so much fun for me, and it makes it so easy to just sink right back into the world, sink right back into what's going on with these characters. So yeah, they fight the Underminer escapes, they cause a whole bunch of damage, and the police aren't happy about that, but Callie, get your booty out the box. But they also attract the attention of one Winston Dever, who seems to be really nostalgic for the superhero times, and he's rich and he wants to, I guess, use this money to help superheroes be able to be super again legally. Right? Okay, so like everyone when it comes to this movie, when Winston Dever is introduced, immediately I'm like, that's not the villain. Like I immediately noticed that this is supposed to be a red herring. This is supposed to be somebody that's dangled in front of us to look like the villain and isn't really the villain.
It fooled me, we can't get fooled again.
So I was constantly looking for, I'm not talking about when I rewatched it, of course. I'm talking about the first time I watched the movie in theaters. I'm scanning the screen like, okay, I'm looking for the real villain. And like most of us, when Winston Dever's sister walks in the room, I'm like, oh, okay, that's the villain. It's just easy, you know? And I get it. There's a lot of people who are probably surprised by her turning out to be the villain. You know, when you watch so many movies, when you're a film fan and you watch so many of these things, it's not a pretentious thing like, oh, I'm so smart, I watch so many movies that I know what's gonna happen. It's more of just like, you recognize film techniques that people like to use, and when you notice those things, it's very hard to not notice those things, and you kind of develop this bit of a spidey sense for things going on in films, and it's always tingling. It's always trying to find something you recognize, and I wouldn't go as far as to say they made the villain too predictable. There are stories that feel like they are intentionally trying to trick you, trying to get you to follow one path logically just to subvert it on you, and then there are movies that I feel like just want you to watch the characters that are experiencing what's going on and watch how they find out the twist or how they find out who the villain is. And I think that's an intriguing way to go, and I feel like that's the way that Incredibles 2 went. And just staying on story for a while, I do feel like the story for this movie is fantastic. I love that they decided to subvert things and have Mrs. Incredible be front and center this time, and have Bob Parr stay home and watch the kids this time. I thought that was a really cool angle to go with, because Bob Parr is obviously, you know, big Mr. Incredible, I'm the manly man, and now it's his turn to be the stay-at-home dad, and seeing him try to fit into that mold was definitely interesting. It was definitely entertaining. You know, I love the scenes just chilling at home with the kids and Robert about as much as I love the action scenes with Mrs. Incredible and Frozone. Pixar is just so great at writing characters that are interesting, but also writing dialogue for the characters that anyone of any age can follow, and they really make these characters feel like real people. You know, when Robert and Helen are having a discussion about whether it's okay to break the law if you feel like the law is unfair, or whether you should always adhere to the law even when you feel like parts of the law are unfair, it feels like real people talking. You know, there's countless scenes like that in this movie, just like there are in the first Incredibles. What you knocking down? So yeah, the dialogue is great, the story is great. I mean, what am I going to talk about? The animation, like, it's Pixar. It's 2018 Pixar. Of course the animation's amazing, right? Like, the faces that these characters make, even when they're not saying anything, you know, it feels remarkably human, even though it, you know, obviously it's a cartoon. It just makes you feel more of an attachment to the people. I loved the animation. I thought the animation was absolutely gorgeous. I thought it was beautiful. Obviously, I love the action sequences. Every single action scene was great. The first scene with the Underminer had a lot of great jokes, had a lot of fast-paced action. Some good poses in this movie too. I noticed a lot of great superhero poses that felt like they were pulled right off of a comic book. I was like, okay, I see y'all Incredibles, you know what I mean? Also the motorcycle train chase around the middle-ish of the film with Mrs. Incredible, that was incredible to watch. Watching it on the big screen, nothing will ever compare to the first time I saw this. I mean, that huge screen with those huge speakers blaring that amazing score. Bro, can y'all re-release Incredibles 2? Like, please, and put it in Dolby and IMAX. Please, I'm sure it'll get a huge turnout. These re-releases have been working for y'all, so keep doing them. And obviously, the final battle is a lot of fun too. I mean, I really, really love Incredibles 2. I don't love it quite as much as I used to, though. Over the years, I have watched Incredibles 1 a little bit more than I've been rewatching Incredibles 2, and I've really come around to notice how good Incredibles is. You know what I mean? Like, that script is so tight, and Syndrome is such a wonderful, perfectly written villain, and the dialogue in that film is so good.
And when everyone's super, no one will be.
When watching Incredibles 2, I can't help but notice how inferior it is at times. I know I started the video by saying I don't go into sequels expecting them to be different from the originals, but with me having seen this movie like 6 or 7 times now, you know, it's not quite as good as 1. You know, the villain isn't quite as good, and you know, there's a couple of characters here and there, they make some decisions where I'm like, I'm not sure why you're doing that, but I'm gonna let you slide, I'm gonna let you rock, because honestly, the movie is still so exciting to watch for me. It's so engaging, it's so funny, and it just feels so nostalgic for me, I guess I could say. It just really taps into that feeling of watching a Saturday morning cartoon, but in Pixar land. So the animation's incredible and the voice acting's incredible and everything's heightened to 11, but I still love the movie and it's still gonna get ranked in this list. It's just, I'm not gonna put it ahead of Insidious, and I'm not going to put it ahead of Girls Trip. Incredibles 2 is going to go ahead and take that final spot for now. I just feel like it has worn off of me a little bit. And the whole point of doing this is so this list is more accurate. So there you go. But obviously, I'm still going to give Incredibles 2 a big old enthusiastic A+. I still love this movie. And honestly, I've talked it up so much, I feel like watching it again, but I have to move on to the next film in this list, which is Toy Story 4. So don't worry, I'm not going to spend 3 months doing a Toy Story 4 review. Don't worry, I'm going to get that out to you guys really soon. I have some other videos that I want to do. I actually have another video I want to record right after this one. So hey, if you like what you've seen here, join the family, man. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Also, join the family on my podcast that I have with my roommate now. It's called Keep It 3000. We have quite a few videos up. We talk about pop culture. We talked a little bit about politics, but don't be scared. We are chilling out on the politics since it's post-election. We're not really gonna spend that much time on that. We're gonna have fun over there. So go ahead and check that out. I'll put the link in the description. And yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. I'll catch you in the next video. Have a good one.